Hi everyone. So this is going to be for my film class, this specific video, but it's also more of a general video. I haven't uploaded in a while. I thought I would come and upload because why not? Today we're looking at this film called The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. And how this video is going to go is I'm going to give my initial thoughts on it. So if you watch the film and are curious on some other human's thoughts, this would be the video to watch me to give my thoughts on it. Very a lot to unpack with this film. But there's some questions that, again, like I said, this is for a film class, so there's a couple questions that the professor would like me to respond to. And in the film, there was talk about this quintessence of life. It was described as the rich and most full embodiment, the perfect embodiment of something. So we need to describe what that means at the philosophical level. I don't really like philosophy, but it's kind of an interesting thing to think about. So we'll discuss that later, along with if someone asked you what the quintessence of life is, how would you describe it in one picture? If so, show us the picture, describe it. I'm going to have to cut this video because I'm going to have to think of something, but I'm just going to give my initial impressions first and then get into the more nitty-gritty, more critical thinking kind of questions that she's asking here. But let's begin with just my thoughts. So we're going to summarize a little bit. It follows the life of Walter Mitty. He works at the Life magazine. He's kind of this awkward guy, and the main conflict of the film is that the Life magazine is shutting down. And it kicks off a lot of things. It puts pressure on him to get out this final issue. He's the head of getting that photograph for that final. And I should also say, a lot of spoilers ahead. I think that's pretty obvious, but I thought I'd just point that out. But yeah, it follows this guy, and again, Life magazine, and he needs to give this one photograph. It's described as negative 25. But when he gets the roll of film and he gets it from this guy Sean, that this is going to be the final cover photo, right? Life usually puts those cool looking photographs on their magazine, but this is the last one. This is fictional, of course, but it's the last one. It's going to be negative 25 of the specific film roll from this guy Sean. However, 25 is missing. So Walter needs to find it. And another plot of the film is that there's this corporate reduction guy who comes in to basically take all the talent that isn't required for the company anymore because they're transitioning to online services. So it basically follows the idea of, okay, we have a bunch of employees that are necessary. Now they're not necessary. We need to get rid of them. Kind of, we've seen it in movies like Office Space, right? Lots of other films of the sort, but it's kind of the tempo builder of the film, right? It's like he needs to get this negative 25, but it's missing. And the whole idea is that Sean withheld this image from Walter, which is really interesting. And we'll get to that in a little bit, but Walter goes to extreme lengths to get this photo. Sean is a very irregular photographer. Oh, sorry, I'm having a mucus in my throat, but he was in Greenland, probably taking some sort of photos, and then Iceland, and then he eventually goes all the way to, I think it seemed like Mongolia. I hope that's not racist. Hope. It seemed like, it was the Himalayas, so we would be in India, I think the Afghan side, so kind of where the Himalayas start over on that face of the Himalayas. In Afghanistan. So he's kind of all over the place, and one of the plots in the film is him actually going and finding this guy and uses clues. And the first clue that they get is with the name of the ship. And he reads it, and it's some weird thing. So he asks around a bunch of people, and he's like, "Oh, it's in Greenland," or sorry, the side plots, but we're gonna get to that. This girl says, "Oh my, it's in Greenland," right? Because she does a Google search of it, and then he goes to Greenland, asks around, finds a pilot, gets on a ship that goes to Iceland, right? Because Sean knows the guys on the boat. Now they're going to Greenland, and then then they go to Iceland, and he can't find him in Iceland, of course. So then he finds him in Afghanistan eventually at the end of the film. And he actually lost photo 25. He's like, "Oh, that's a shame. You're never going to know what it is," right? Kind of a interesting idea from the director. Just to kind of keep you in the suspense loop of like, you need to know what this photo is, right? You've been hearing about it. It's very important to the quintessence of life, so to speak. And it is this photo represents life, the fullness of life, the most perfect embodiment of life. That's what quintessence is. It's like the perfectness, right? And I think it's a good time to introduce the questions that I'm being asked. It's what is the quintessence of life? Let's go ahead and answer this. In my interpretation from the film, I think the quintessence of life was portrayed as in the form of this photograph, and it was like, okay, how can you capture the most full, perfect embodiment of life? Like, what is a good message that describes life? I hope I'm making sense. I sound like I'm just rambling, but it's like, how can you summarize everything in life in one photo? And I don't want to, well, maybe I'll keep you guys in suspense what negative 25 actually was. But that's what negative 25 was trying to show, basically, is like, this is the fullness of life. But again, we're left in the loop. It's really not until one of the ending scenes in the film where we actually see this picture. Some other important side plots that I guess I should describe is we see his fascination with this girl, Cheryl. I mean, it's kind of just run-of-the-mill Hollywood kind of love. It's just like, "Oh, I'm head over heels for you, but you don't notice me." That kind of cliche kind of thing. And they get talking, and then they get comfortable with each other. But something interesting that was seen throughout the film is... and this is going to bridge into another idea, Walter's hallucinations, so to speak. He has these weird, there's weird points in the film where Walter will do something, but it's not in reality, and then it cuts back to reality, right? So in one of the opening scenes, he dives into a window, saves a dog, and saves this girl. And he fascinates over this girl, Cheryl, because he saw her on a dating website, which then he like started fantasizing about it. He's like, okay, if I save her dog, she'll love me forever. And throughout the film, we see a lot of these hallucinations where he's just fascinated with this girl, and he just keeps going off these weird side quests, so to speak, where he just does these most random things ever, like beating a guy up that talks to him wrong, or expressing his love for this girl, but it's not actually true, overhearing things that just aren't true. So the meaning of it, and an important thing to find out, is you see the frequency of these go down almost exponentially. Once he starts his expedition into Greenland, Iceland, and Afghanistan, it kind of plateaus in an exponential S-curve kind of fashion, right? We see all these hallucinations, and then just sharply, it stops. It completely stops. So what's the meaning of that? The way I see it is Walter is becoming a better version of himself. He's opening his life up to things that he's not comfortable with. One of that would be talking to Cheryl. Like, you can tell he's very, very awkward. Like, he was scared to even send a wink to this girl. He doesn't know how to talk to this woman. and he's just an awkward guy. He's very like, kind of like to himself, very, just an odd guy. Guys make fun of him at work. He just gets out of his shell a little bit. He just has this overnight flip, right? The pressure from work to get the -25, the risk of being fired, the wanting to know what is that picture 25, his commitment to his work. It kind of just switches him. He becomes this very outgoing guy. He jumps into a plane, jumps into the ocean, fights a shark. I mean, it's crazy. This guy, he hikes the Himalayas. That's the tallest mountain range in the world. I mean, that's very difficult to just pick up and do, but it's just an overnight switch. And I think that that's him finding meaning in his life, just getting out and doing something significant. And that was finding the -25. But what was -25 after all that time? Well, we have to point out one scene. So 25 is missing at this point in the film, and he's talking to the girl Cheryl, and they meet at this fountain, okay? And he's looking at the page trying to find what that picture 25 actually is, and it's not there, of course, right? Because before he looked all around his office, he could not find picture 25. He's at risk of being fired. But at the end of the film, we see that the picture 25 is a little side photo, right? So if he's here, the photo is taken like a little bits away of Walter looking at, he has like a little grid of all the negatives. He's specifically looking at -25 being missing at that fountain, and that is the picture 25. So what does it mean? It means that, 25 was never there when the original roll was sent. So I guess what Sean, the photographer, was trying to do is get him to get out of his comfort zone. He knew it's the final issue of life. He knew that this photo is very important to him, but he wanted to wonder how far would Walter go to achieve getting out of his shell and finding this photo. And it turns out a lot, right? Because he went through all of that work, going to Greenland, Iceland, and then Afghanistan to find this guy, climbing the Himalayas, finally sitting down with him and being like, where's -25? It wasn't there. And he's like, I put it in your wallet. Okay? And in my interpretation, if you remember this part of the film, I think he actually planted -25. He would have to, right? Unless he time traveled. That would be kind of weird. After that fountain scene, of course. So I think he did it when Sean visited Walter's mother, right? There's that scene where it's like, oh, Sean visited me. He's in the Himalayas or something. I believe that's how that part of the film goes. So I think he planted it in his wallet at that point. And I feel like Sean always knew that there was that weirdness about this photo. Like, it's going to be kind of shocking when he sees it. And I feel like Sean also knew that Walter was missing that photo, because Walter, he was like, I'm missing the photo. I can't find it, right? Sean knows that. And he says, it's in your wallet. Sean threw it away, or Walter threw that wallet away, right, for whatever reason. And then Sean, it was like, that hurts my feelings, kind of sarcastically, like a philosophical, like, oh, that hurts my feelings. It's in there. So it actually turns out that the mother kept the wallet, and they found -25. And again, it was that photo of him at the fountain. And the most fascinating part of that, it's like, I think that Sean was helping him get out of his shell. And I believe that is the quintessence, that still frame is the quintessence of life, finding meaning in yourself. He went through all of that trouble just to find himself and get out of his shell and become something. Like, we assume that after the film, him and Cheryl are now together. We assume that him and that guy from that dating website are friends. As a side, I'm not going to really get into that because it's not really relevant. yeah, it's just kind of interesting, you know? He goes from like this bummy guy, not very sought after by a lot of people, not very valued, to like a pretty serious guy. And just that idea is shown with that photograph. And finding yourself, I believe, is how the director wanted to display the quintessence of life in a photograph, like showing the fullness of life in a single photograph, the perfectness, right? The perfect photograph that would summarize all of life. To the director would be that. All right, I'm gonna go think about what a photograph for the quintessence of life would be, and then I'll show you guys what that is, whatever I find. I'm actually gonna think about it too. So give me a little bit. I'm gonna think about it. I'll be back. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the photo like right here. Okay, so this is my one of my favorite photographs, and it was taken during the civil rights movement by a man named Fred Rogers. He was a talk show host, right, on the television, and we see him sharing, and it was a broadcast, but this is a still frame from it, kind of a more famous photograph, and it's specifically following. Um, it's looking at the racism in America being overcome, right? It encaps it to me. It's like the perfect photograph that sums up the beauty and unitement of life. We've been dealing, you know, from the very early times in European history to now, well, even in like Egypt, but I'm saying like white people enslaving African American people, or just any people, maybe not African American, Native American people, Caribbean people, you know, that whole thing, that very bad thing that happened. And I think it's beautiful to see photos like these because it just encapsulates the moment when there was a societal shift. Sure, there's still racism in America. It's just bound to happen. There's going to be racists. There's going to be non-racist. There's going to be people who just don't give a shit. All right, it's kind of just a spectrum. But we saw an overall social shift in racism at this point, and I think this was the time when humanity decided that we're all human, we're all equal. And to me, that's just, it shows you the turning point in society when we realized everyone who is a Homo sapien is a human, and they needed to be treated equal. So to me, that just encapsulates the most pure, the most full embodiment of life to me, right? It shows a very, very important milestone in American society. Now, when I was looking at photos, I thought maybe I'll do something biology related. But then I'm like, okay, I don't want to bore everyone, so I thought I'd go with something that everyone can understand. And, you know, to me, it actually is something I'm very passionate about. Racism is bad. Don't be racist now, okay? Very bad. But yeah, I just wanted to show you that photo. I think it just encapsulates society and the beauties of what was the civil rights movement. But thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry this was a very long one. But yeah, I just, you know, this was an assignment I had to do, so I thought I'd make a little bit of a long form thing about it. Hopefully coming up here, I'm going to make some debunking videos. I want to do maybe like James Tour, something like, I mean, like, I love Rice University. His research is good, but I am just so tired of hearing this guy blab about. He comes up on my feed all the time, and he just makes me angry. But I might do some other niche things, you know, just to really crap on people. Well, misinformers on the internet, just because I want to. It's something I'm passionate about. I hate misinformation on the internet. And my research, hopefully one day, is with Origin of Life research. So James Tour, mega yucky. Don't like the guy. I mean, I respect him for, you know, he, like, me and him share the same belief that we are both Christian. But one denies Origin of Life researcher, and, you know, I don't. So because That's what science is being real with yourself, people. Be real. Look at the facts, not the person yelling. Okay. I also want to do like vaccines, RFK, definitely RFK. I think that might be in the higher priority just because he's a big threat to society for now. And I want to do like deep dives looking at the literature and dissecting what is wrong with what they're looking at, right? Cherry picking is a big part of the issue. I want to look at ivermectin fraud because that's really, I mean, COVID's over, but it's still kind of important to look at that. So yeah, be tuned for that. I'm gonna probably do that. I'm applying for some RU programs, like it's winter break in between college, so I'm thinking study linear algebra and Calc 3. I have I'm actually gonna take an exam to get exempt from having to take that class, but still get the credits, so that's good. Then gonna learn some linear algebra. Gonna maybe I'm gonna make some videos, hopefully. Maybe I'll do some Calc 3 stuff. But I want to make a whole series from Calc 1 to Calc 3, right? Just to help people learn. I feel like I'm blabbing, but I just want to let you guys know what I'm up to in life. So thank you guys. Hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.